Welcome to Journey to Wholeness, hosted by author and life coach Indiana Tuggle, where we help Christian women heal, achieve mental wellness, and spiritual growth so you can accomplish your goals and purpose.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Journey to Wholeness. Tonight, I have with me Jen Beck, and Jen is the CEO and founder of Complete Health Revolution. She is a best-selling author and an award-winning speaker. And before I get too far in it, I'm just going to let Jen introduce herself to you all.
Thanks so much, India. I'm super excited to be here. As you said, I'm the founder of Complete Health Revolution, and I work with women that are super women that aren't feeling so super anymore. They're the ones that are, the go-to for absolutely everybody, high achieving, and they've gotten to a point where they are overwhelmed, overweight, overstressed, and exhausted from overgiving. And I help them to create a life that they love to live and have the physical and emotional health to be able to live it.
Absolutely awesome. That sounds amazing because when you said overworked, overstressed, feeling like they just really have to do it all, we all can relate to that because we all are battling so many different things in our lives. And that's why it is really important that we pay attention to our physical health. And all this month, I've been talking with different health professionals, nutritionists, diet and exercise people. And the one thing that has really been consistent is we tend to put ourselves on the back burner. We put ourselves on the back burner to take care of everybody else. And we really, truly have to learn to prioritize ourselves and put ourselves first. So I read that your mission with Complete Health Revolution is to help people create a life that they love with optimal health. So what really inspired you to begin this journey?
Yeah, well, if you rewound the clock about 20, 25 years, you'd see me living on sugar, fast food. I smoked a half a pack a day, caffeine all day long. I mean, I was not the picture of health whatsoever. And my mom had multiple sclerosis my entire life. At the age of 49, she went from living on her own to being in a nursing home within 6 weeks. And she had been on all the preventative drugs to help her prevent that scenario from happening. And I just remember we had about 2 days to be able to figure out where she was going to go and then sort through all of her possessions and figure out what was going to go to the nursing home, what was going to go to Goodwill, what was going to, go to the garbage, and what she was going to take with her. And that day, just watching her really fight for every possession that she had, everything that she had was something that she had accumulated in her life. It was her identity. It was who she was. And watching the grieving process that she went through that day, it really just hit me. And so I decided I was going to do whatever I could to help her. And at the same time, I'll help myself. So my mom had multiple sclerosis, but so did her mom. And so did my mom's sister. So I was like, well, they say it's not genetic, but I don't want to go there regardless. And so I went looking for ways to be able to help my mom. And I ended up at a conference that was being taught by a pharmacist. And he was teaching about the healing benefits of superfoods, which back in the late 90s, early 2000s was weird. I mean, multivitamins were still weird back then. And during his talk, he was talking about his wife who had had multiple sclerosis the same amount of time as my mom, 26 years apiece. And then after his talk that evening, I see the two of them waltzing across the ballroom. This woman is virtually untouched. And my mom had been walking with a cane since I was probably 7 or 8. And I got a chance to meet her and I said, what drugs are you on? Because your results are so much better than my mom's. And she looked at me kind of confused. She's like, I'm not on any drugs. No, my husband didn't believe in them. And I'm like, wait, your husband, the pharmacist, didn't believe in the drugs? And she goes, no, the population studies were too short and too small, and the side effects basically outweighed the benefits. And I'm like, well, what did you do then? She goes, I just took care of my body, diet, supplements, and exercise. And I started thinking about my mom's lifestyle. And I mean, I grew up in the Midwest where, Hamburger Helper was a staple. Salisbury steak out of the freezer, instant potatoes, can of green beans, and cream corn. And, so I mean, we had balanced meals, convenience meals, but not necessarily nutritionally dense. And now that I know that, right? And she took supplements for like 6 months when I was in sixth grade. And she's like, they're too expensive. I'm not doing it. And I don't remember her ever exercising. So the three things that this woman did were things my mom never did. And it got me curious. Like, what if what Dr. Suss's wife had done, what if my mom had done those things? Would it really have made a difference? So I dove into research, and the more research I did, the more I saw people reversing MS and heart disease and cancer and diabetes and fibromyalgia and all of the diseases that I thought were life sentences once you got the diagnosis. People were literally reversing by changing their diet and lifestyle. So I went back to school for nutrition, and my goal was to be able to get my mom out of the nursing home, which we did. We got her into a group home. She passed just before her 65th. And the doctor said that we extended her life by at least 5, if not 10 years, and tremendously improved the quality of her life while she was still living. So for me, my business is so much more than just a job. It really is in my mom's legacy. And so her journey with multiple sclerosis is what got me started. And really the lessons that I learned from her is that we don't always choose what happens to us, but we choose our suffering or our joy. And we are in control. Our health is our greatest wealth. And it really does come down to our attitude and where we want to go. And so I embody that myself. And then I also teach my clients really how to create the life they love with the health to live it.
Absolutely amazing. It's almost amazing how we tend to thrust ourselves into purpose just by trying to either help ourselves or help somebody else overcome something. So it's that nurturing that's within us to really want to see the people that we love and the people that we encounter better, right? But also, I realized that you've worked with so many people as a nutrition consultant and LIIFT UnTherapy practitioner. So, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that people really have about health and healing?
Mm. I would say that one of the biggest misconceptions is if I do all of these things, then I'll get the result that I want and life will be good after that.
Mm,
I think it's probably one of the biggest misconceptions. I see so many women that are addicted to the scale or they micromanage what goes into their mouth. And they're like, if I just do all these things, then I'll eventually get there. And unfortunately, it's not true. The easiest way I can explain it is if we go, I want this result, so I'm going to do this and this and this and this. I'm going to drink more water. I'm cut out sugar, cut out carbs, work out every day. I'm going to only eat vegetables. I'm going to go vegetarian. I'm going to do all the things. Most people don't ever get to that goal. If they do get there, they go, oh, thank God I don't have to do that anymore. And then they go, woo, right back down to the way that they used to. And it doesn't happen overnight that they go back to their old habits. Sometimes it's a slow trickle.
yeah.
Sometimes it's I'm going to jump ship. And then it's like 2 weeks later, they're back on the wagon, putting the weight back on that they just did all these things to try and take off the weight.
Hmm.
And so I explain it like if all we're doing is the surface doing things, but we don't have a reason of why we're doing it, right? I want to fit into my clothes. Well, you'll get there, you'll fit in your clothes and you go, yay, I can eat whatever I want again. My clothes fit. Instead of going, man, I want to be able to chase after my grandkids. I'm 50 years old. I have an 8.5-year-old. Like I
Hmm.
want to be able to meet my grandkids and play with them and pick them up and things like that. And I'm guessing it's going to be quite a while before that happens. So if all we do is we do the doing and we get to that goal, but we don't change what's underneath of why we do what we do, we're kind of doomed to go back to our old ways.
Hmm.
So that's where the LIIFT UnTherapy and a lot of the emotional healing and unconscious rewiring that I do comes into play, because it's not just about our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. We can do some work on that. We can manage our thoughts, we can manage our emotions, but that still takes energy. It still takes active energy, which if we're exhausted and we're overgiving, we don't have a lot of other energy to devote to that.
Right.
So what I call the under is the experiences, the influences, the conditioning and programming that we received or we experienced that created our default ways of being, the thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. So when we can heal below the line, it allows us to create true lasting freedom.
Wow. You remind me of in my text community, we've been journaling through a challenge this month called Body Goals. And in that challenge, we would talk about the mind and body connection, and then the spiritual connection of all of it that kind of works together to help us to, make doing all the things that you just mentioned, make it a lifestyle, not just some type of quick temporary fix that once we get there, wherever there might be, then we've arrived and we don't have to do it anymore, like you just said. And then we end up going back and we end up being in this whole roller coaster, this cycle of going up and down. I call it the losing the same 20 pounds over and over again, because you lose it, then you gain it, then you lose it, then you gain it, and you keep going in this cycle. So how do you help them what are some of the things that you do to kind of help people to get to that under to where you can actually see the aha moment click on, and you can see that, okay, they're in it for the long haul?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is to slow it down.
Yeah.
Right. If we are constantly running and doing all day long, but we have no time for ourselves, we don't have a sense of what works for us, for our body, for our lifestyle, for anything else. So, for many people, they overhaul everything all at once. And then, like I said, they reach their goal and they go, oh my gosh, yay. Or like the holidays happen, or their birthday happens, or they go on vacation. And all of their hard work goes out the window because they take their eye off of the focus. So a huge part of what I do when we're looking at lifestyle changes is baby steps. It's taking one new habit, anchoring that, understanding why we're doing it, how to do it, how to make it work in my life on a daily basis, and then anchor that in. Then we can layer success on top of success on top of success. Instead of overhauling everything. It's like, I'm going to do it all and nothing works longer than 24 hours. And we go, oh, I suck. And then we quit. And then we rally again. I'm going to do it this time. And then it lasts maybe a week that time. But every time we quit on ourselves, we annihilate our self-confidence and our self-esteem. So the whole goal is to be able to work with the brain. Our brain likes to stay exactly where we are in our little known zone. Don't change anything. So when we overhaul everything, it freaks out. So it's a matter of taking a baby step and then layering one on top of the next, on top of the next, so that it's an evolution of our known zone. It's expanding our comfort zone versus blowing it up. So that's like the above the line work. And then it's really a matter of getting into, like, why do we do what we do? What does food mean to you? What does weight represent to you? So it's really understanding the drivers, right? We've got our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, which are the drivers that many of us know about. The hidden drivers are the ones that are actually creating the thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. So it could have been, for a lot of women I work with, Indiana, they can lose the weight, but they can't maintain it. So they'll drop 50, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80 pounds at times. I have one woman who lost 80 pounds 3 separate times, and whole lots of other pounds in between there. She was on 23 different diets by the time we met. She's about 60. And she had done all of the things. The challenge was every time she would start to lose weight, she would start getting attention. People would tell her how great she looks, how amazing she looks. What have you been doing? And she'd get all this attention. She's like, I don't know how to handle this. Well, she had had some sexual abuse when she was younger. And so for her, being visible and getting attention was a very dangerous thing, not to her conscious mind. I mean, she's, strong and intentional woman, whatever. And so she wasn't afraid in her life, but her body sure was. As soon as she started getting more attention, it was like running back to the hills. And so we had to do a lot of work where we were installing safety, and we were shifting the filter of what she sees the world through. And one of the modalities that I use, this is the book that I use. And in here, there are dozens on every page, there are dozens of statements that are both positive and toxic. And so I look at which statements are the ones that are active, and the negative ones, we actually dissolve the toxic beliefs and we install a positive one in its place at an unconscious level. So if you think about affirmations, like if you say them 100,000 times, like they get in your conscious brain. I think about Stuart Smalley back in Saturday Night Live days. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. And as long as you're in your healthy, happy little bubble, it's true. But the second we get into a dangerous scenario, physically or emotionally, our brain goes, we don't know how to handle this. And it goes back to defending what used to be, which is why it's so critical that we dissolve that and install the positive one in its place. So it changes the filter that we see the world through.
Absolutely. That's amazing. You remind me of the book that I've been looking at or starting to read. You probably heard of The Body Keeps Score.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of some of the things that they talk about in there and how our body just remembers everything. And some of the smallest things can trigger that emotion, trigger that fear, and it can cause you to either fight or retreat, and so you have to really understand what those things are. And it really helps me think about self-sabotage, because sometimes if you don't know the person and you don't get to know the person, we can automatically label things as self-sabotage, which in broad sense, it is self-sabotage.
Yep.
But in the molecular sense, it's so much deeper than that. And you really have to get to the root, because and I say we, because I can recognize myself in a lot of what you said. We don't want to self-sabotage.
Right.
We don't want to be on the roller coaster. We don't want to keep going through and having success and then failing and then on those lows and highs, because that's another emotion in itself. We don't want to do that. So we really want to get to the root. We ask ourselves why. More than anybody could ever know. I tell my therapist, I'm like, I probably beat myself up more than anybody could ever do, to me, because I'm trying to have that breakthrough. Right. So, what type of strategies do you recommend for breaking free from those patterns?
Yeah. I will tell you, one of the most important things you could do is self-love. Like,
Yes.
I hear you about, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I did it again. I know better than that. I shouldn't have done this, and like, we should all over ourselves. And it doesn't serve us in any way, shape, or form. I think one of the most important things we can do is self-love. There's a gentleman I worked with a few years ago, and his career, he had worked 40 years taking care of other people and teaching them how to have these amazing breakthroughs where they love themselves, and they have huge healing episodes. He would do retreats and things like that. And he came to me because he wanted to lose 40 pounds and get his health back on track. And we started working together, and he was the kindest, sweetest man to everyone else except himself. There's actually his testimonials on my website. He calls me his change angel, because one of the most valuable things I taught him, Indiana, is to love on himself. There was a time in his life, he was about 9 years old. He went through some trauma, through some stuff, and I had him get out a picture of him at 9, and every day talk to little Davy. Talk to little Dave and talk to him with love, with kindness. And it was so amazing. Within a matter of a couple of weeks, he went from really fighting progress and doing the I'm going to do it, the declaration, the caving, the quitting, all of the cycle, right? And in about 2 weeks, he just started getting really consistent. He started doing things that he loved to do in his life. He started going kayaking. He started biking to work because he wanted to bike to work versus he had to. And he
Mhm.
just flipped it of like, one of the biggest things that I teach people is, what does a life that you love, like you get to prioritize you. What does that life look like?
Mhm.
So for Dave, within 3 months, he had released 40 pounds. And he did a total 180 on how he showed up for himself, how he was taking care of it, taking care of himself. And he glowed. And the most amazing thing is it was permanent. He's maintained that for the last several years because he changed in his core, not just micromanaging his exercise and what he eats. It really
Mm.
does go to who we are and how we love on ourselves.
Absolutely. And in some of with my journaling clients and even in some of the journals that I create, the first question I generally start with in that journal is about writing the vision, and part of that vision is about what you just mentioned. What does happiness, joy, the life that you want, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And can you answer that question absence of whatever you think you need to get it. Don't worry about
Mhm.
anything. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about time. Don't worry about anything. But what does it look like? And often I tell I give instructions to don't answer that question until you've had a day of rest. Because trying to answer that question when you've just tackled the world at work, come home, worrying with the kids, worrying with family members, and all of that, trying to tackle that no matter how much you want to put, time and money out of the picture, it's going to be right here in your face.
Yes.
So you have to be able to relax your mind in order to truly, truly answer that question. And then once you answer that question, you begin to break it down, okay, into bite-sized pieces to figure out what are those things that you want to tackle right now. How can we take one step towards one of those things? So I love that approach, and people don't realize that it applies in every area of your life, no matter what, whether it's mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physical, financial, whatever goal that you have, it applies to that in all of that. So I wanted to talk about, since we've been talking about it already, stress and emotional health, and how it really plays such a huge role in our overall wellness. So how have you seen how emotional healing impacts weight loss and energy levels and chronic health conditions and things like that?
Yeah. So I think it's easiest to demonstrate it with a story.
Hmm.
So I have a gal that came to work with me a couple years ago, and she came to me because she wanted to lose weight. She worked in a very high profile job in a male dominated industry, and she's like, I am so tired of worrying whether they do it or not. I think they are. I know they are about being judged for my weight. So I just want to be able to lose the weight so I can be confident when I'm speaking in front of the room and leading my team.
Hmm.
And so that was her primary goal. She had about 50 pounds that she wanted to release. And and so when she came in, we started just baby steps, right? We always do a full intake and really look at a holistic picture of where do we need to go and what do we need to focus on. And so we started just making baby steps. And she had been dealing with some rheumatoid arthritis and it had been in chronic pain for 20 years. She was taking steps one at a time. She would take a step and pull her foot up, and she would take a step and pull her foot up. And it was over the course of 20 years that she developed this, but everybody had been telling her it was all in her head. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing we can do for you. Like if it really hurts that bad, take some ibuprofen. That was it. And when we started working together, we started working together in the spring. She had just gotten back from the rheumatologist appointment right before our session. And she goes, well, they told me I have fibromyalgia. And she goes, now I'm kind of torn because I haven't had anybody tell me that it was like real. So I have a
Hmm.
diagnosis. So I know it's not in my head. But they said the only thing that they can do for me is give me a medication with a list of side effects that is so long, I don't want to take it. And I said, we're 3 weeks into this. Let's give it a little bit of time. We're started making some lifestyle changes. And we started talking about where her pain was. And for her, it was in her left knee. And our right side is our male side, our left side is our female side. And and so I told her, I said, sometimes the pain that we're experiencing or what we're experiencing in our body is trapped emotions in there, but they're not always ours. Sometimes we inherit them and they're passed through epigenetics. And just like our DNA is passed down, so are our emotions and our beliefs. I said, out of curiosity, does your mom have any knee issues at all? And she's like, yeah, she's had knee issues her entire life. In fact, she's had 4 knee surgeries on there. And, and I said, and so we started talking about the meaning of the knees as well. And knees are inflexibility, pride, stubborn ego, and fear of being persecuted for who you are. I said, does any of that resonate? And she's like, yeah, when we were kids, like if we didn't do it right the first time, boy, we heard about it, and we didn't do it right the second time, we were beaten. And I said, I can appreciate why that might create a little bit of fear of being persecuted. And I said, does mom have any, any knee issues? And she was quiet for a long moment, and then she told me about the surgeries. And I said, what was her childhood like? And she goes, oh, hers was way worse than mine. I mean, her dad was a raging alcoholic and would fly off the handle and throw the kids around for no reason, was, verbally and physically abusive. And so hers was way worse than mine. And so now we've got 2 generations. And if you think about it, her mom had to have gone through some stuff for her to get to be the way that she was. So there's this lineage. So think about a snowball through generations. So we started addressing specifically the emotions and the beliefs that were generated and attached to that knee, that fear of being persecuted. Indiana, she gets on the call 3 weeks later and she goes, I just had my first 99% pain-free day.
Wow.
So chronic pain for 20 years, she's now pain-free. She went on and she actually went on to book a trip where she went hiking for 2.5 weeks the following summer. And she released 50 pounds. And in the process, because we really started addressing what are the drivers, the ways that she is showing up for herself, the way that she's living her life, she reorganized her entire business so that it worked for her. Instead of her working really, really hard, powering up, powering through, and then crashing, and then getting up and doing it again, she really reworked it. So now her life works for her. Her business works for her. She hasn't crashed. She's maintained her weight. She's actually released a full 50 pounds and she feels amazing.
Wow.
And it's because we addressed it on that holistic vantage, that holistic approach from both the emotions and the lifestyle changes we needed to make.
Wow. That's amazing. I resonated with some of that because I deal with the knee pain. And you just saying that, I saw myself in there, especially with that fear of being persecuted. We're going to talk a lot about that afterwards, because that made so much sense. And we really never realize how much what we hold on to in that stress and the emotions can take a toll on our body. We just don't know the depth of it. And so we just sometimes we just accept stuff, right? So because she had accepted a lifestyle of chronic pain and accepted that nobody could do it. And sometimes I don't know if you're religious or spiritual. I liken myself to the woman with the issue of blood, her trying to find a cure, doing any and everything to find a cure. And finally, hearing about Jesus, and it kind of, set her free because it was a different way. It was somebody who truly understood what she was going through and was able to help her and allowed her to make that change and do that 180 that she needed to do to be necessary. So that's really, really amazing. I know we talked about consistency. So that's one of another biggest struggle outside of self-sabotage and the emotional. The struggle with consistency is kind of in the top 5. So what advice do you have for making those lasting changes?
I mean, addressing why we do what we do and why we don't do what we say we do, right? I mean, we all know that we should eat more broccoli and chicken than brownies and cookies. That's not rocket science.
Uh-huh.
Why do we do? Why do we eat more brownies and cookies? So part of it is looking at why we do what we do and understanding that and unpacking that. And I teach my clients, I have lots of different little strategies and tricks and things like that to address stress and address the emotional eating and things like that. But I think one of the biggest, most important pieces is the baby steps.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of trying to go from, not drinking any water to drinking a gallon of water in a day, well, how about we just wake up with a cup of water next to our bed? How do we set you up for success and remove the barriers so that you can be successful? With new clients, I do what's called a barrier breakthrough session. And we're really looking at where are you at now? What are your goals? And what's been standing in the way? Is it logistical? Is it knowledge? Is it emotions? Is it mental? Is there some trauma holding you back? Like, what are the things that are getting in the way? Are you doing all of the things that you've ever learned, but none of it's personalized?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's so many things that get in the way of us doing it consistently because there's 101 different dietary theories out there. So if somebody's going, okay, I'm going to do what my best friend did, that didn't work. I'm going to do what my best friend's cousin did, that didn't work. I'm going to do what my doctor said to do, that didn't work. And so we get frustrated. We're constantly looking externally for somebody to tell us what to do.
Mm-hmm.
The approach I take with my clients is I teach them how to listen to their body. So
Mm.
they're now in the driver's seat. If I tell you what to eat, oh my gosh, Indiana, do you like being told what to do?
Not at all.
No, none of us does. But yet we go, here, tell me what I should eat every day.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah, no resistance or resentment there at all. Like, so it has to be based on our choices. So we need the right information, the right tools so that we can design a life and a lifestyle that fits in our life. And we
Mm-hmm.
truly get to live it and not die it. So it's the baby steps and the personalization.
Yes, I love that. Design a lifestyle that fits in your lifestyle. I love that. Because we are all really different. And it's kind of like how we try to force ourselves into this square, and we're circles. We try to force ourselves into it. And that's really where we end up messing up, really, and sabotaging our own lifestyle because we're trying to be like somebody else, and we're ignoring our own uniqueness. I love your baby steps approach, and because I'm one of those. Once I really start to realize that I'm not this big, huge multitasker that I think I am, because we all try to say, oh, I'm a multitasker. I can do more things at once. But in reality, if you overwhelm me with too much, I'm going to shut down and go sit down, and be like, you know what? I'm not gonna do it. So it's really best for me to do, only a few things at a time until I master it. Once you master something, you can do it multiple ways. You
Yeah.
can then multitask with things that you master. But when you're trying to incorporate something new, something you've never done, a new skill set, a new mindset, and something against, and it's going against something that you have done for 20, 30 years, that's why bad heart habits are hard to break, because it's been dictating and ruling for so many years, and it's not going down without a fight. It really isn't. So we have to tackle it, like you said, one step at a time, right? So let's get into the your approach includes both the science based nutrition and emotional healing techniques. So how do these two areas really complement each other?
Well, like I said, if we say we want to do, if we say we're going to eat broccoli and chicken, we have to deal with the emotions that are coming up. And the easiest way I can describe it, you were talking about the book, The Body Keeps the Score,
Mhm.
and how we store emotions in our body and we trap them in our body. Well, they manifest physically in states of dis-ease.
Mm.
So it's not this arbitrary thing like we've got this disease. No, your body's in a state of dis-ease. And now the doctors have put together some symptoms and they call it something.
Mm.
That's all a diagnosis is. So if we think about these emotions, our emotions are our essence. That is the truest form of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And when we experience emotions that we don't fully process, we store them in our body, right? So if you're in the middle of grief and you're like, I don't have time to grieve right now. I got to keep going. Or we're sad and we've got to power up and power through. So all of the emotions that we don't fully process, they get stored. And it's like we're walking around with this warehouse full of fireworks. And we don't have to be in the same situation, but it's a situation that feels similar.
Mm-hmm.
So if maybe we were bullied in the third grade and we were made to feel not good enough. Well,
Yes.
now we're a 30-year-old woman or a 50-year-old woman, and we are made to feel not good enough again. Whether somebody does it intentionally or not, doesn't matter. We feel not good enough. And our go-to becomes something that we're trying to fix. A lot of times it's food. It could be also alcohol, drugs, overworking, oversleeping, over Netflixing, anything we're trying to do to fill in that gap. So if we don't address the emotions, we don't address the warehouse of fireworks, it's like we're in survival mode. We're in the middle of this warehouse of fireworks. Everything is going off at once. And we're like, I don't know what to do. I just want to survive. Make it go away. Give me a Snickers. Give me a Twinkie. It doesn't matter what it is. Just make it go away. And
Right.
so we're trying to numb or shift our emotions
Mm-hmm.
based on the foods or vices that we have that shift our feeling state.
Mm-hmm.
So the easiest way to explain it is that if we're in perfect peace of mind and we're in a flow state, we've got balance mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or physically. But if we have a gap or a void or a deficiency mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, we go do something physical. Eat,
Mm-hmm.
work out, do like play, do something, have a glass of wine, whatever it is. And so when we can start healing what's in that warehouse, and some of the modalities that I use, it's like literally taking pallets of fireworks out of the warehouse. So
Mm-hmm.
now the next time we step into a situation that feels similar, there's no fireworks to go off. Like the bottle rock that goes in there, but it's like whatever, it's fine. It's not a big deal. So that's really how they pair hand in hand. So we're removing the triggers that we feel that we want to numb and self-medicate with food or whatever. And we're allowing us to be able to keep a calm state. So we're not just trying to figure out how to survive and how to make it through the day.
Awesome. That sounds so amazing. So what do you say to the woman or the person? I'm not going to assume that you only work with women, but what do you say to the person who is really stuck on their journey? Whether it's weight, stress, fatigue, um, the behaviors, the self-sabotaging behavior. What's the first step that you tell them to take today?
Yeah, first step is to get real.
Yeah.
Like really decide that you want it to be different.
Hmm.
And really understand what's not working. So there's an acronym that I use, which is ACT, and it's awareness, concern, take action. If we are going through life and we are just doing life and we don't know why life isn't working, we don't know what in life isn't working, or what in our diet isn't working, or what in our relationships aren't working. We just know it's not working. We just don't want it. It's not working, and I just want it to be different. But we don't ever take the time to pause and go, huh, what do I want it to look like? To your point, right? Creating that vision of a life that I really love to live. If we don't know where we're going and we don't know what we want, anywhere will do. And so it's getting aware of what is and not judging it, not bashing ourselves for where we are, but just really becoming aware of it. The more aware we are of our patterns, of what our triggers are, of what foods are working for us or not, then we get concerned.
Hmm.
Once we're concerned enough, then
Mm.
we'll take action. But many times we're just going through the motions, just trying to get through life, and we don't have an awareness of what's going on or what's really underneath why we feel the way that we do, which is just exhausted, tired, cranky, resentful. Like there's a lot of women I work with that are 40 plus that are, ooh, the resentment is building because they're just over giving.
Mm.
They're depleted and they're not taking care of themselves in the first place.
Wow. Yeah, that's so true. So you've been empowering people for 20 years, right? And you've already shared a couple of great stories with us today. So is there one more rewarding than what you've already shown, one of those transformations that you witnessed that we could and what can we learn from that story?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. Um, I think about one gentleman that I worked with, and he had had the most extensive gastric bypass done.
Mm,
He had his heaviest had gotten to 480 pounds,
mm,
um, and had been able to get to a place where um, he was able to release over 100 pounds, and he was able to maintain that. He got down to about 150, but was able to maintain 100. When we met, it was about 15, 16 years later, and he had still been trying to release more weight after that, during that 15 or 16 years. And I met him and we started working through my process and really allowing him to heal from the damage that he had experienced when he was bullied in school and he was ostracized in college, and shifted his relationship with his mom and created some boundaries where he got to do his life and love and support his mom, not put his life on hold to take care of his mom.
mm,
And really helped him to learn to listen to his body and add in more things that were just fulfilling for him, where he really loved his life.
mm,
Joined a committee, he started feeling more confident. We had incorporated both nutrition and lifestyle changes as well as the emotional healing. And he just got to a place where he was just living his best life and just shining. And he goes, I wish I would have found this 40 years ago because my entire life would have been different. Because
mm,
he truly was able to heal body, mind, and soul
mhm.
and to be able to step into his best life.
Awesome. I love that. Stepping into your best life. I love that as the end, the ultimate goal. So, as we begin to wrap up, tell us how can we work with you, Jen? What type of program or services do you have going on, and where can we find it at?
Yeah. So my website is completehealthrevolution.com. So you can be able to find me there. And I'm Jen Beck, Complete Health on pretty much all social. Um, so you can find me there. I work with people in a few different ways. Right now, I have a membership program, and then I also have, which is more of a group, and then I have my one-on-one coaching. And then I also do some corporate and I do some speaking as well. So speaking is one of my favorite ways to be able to work with people and to really inspire and empower, because there's just, when you can walk away and take one nugget and apply it, it can be transformational. So
Mm,
I have a group program right now called Transform, and it really is a mind-body approach to weight loss and transformation. So we talk about, how to create nutrition and really everything we've been talking about tonight.
mm,
Doing the work of personalizing your nutrition. How do you create lifestyle changes that work for you? And then I bring in the mindset, the mindfulness, and the emotional healing into our sessions as well. There's a direct link for that program, which is transform the letter U 365.com. So it's transformu365.com with the letter U. And then my one-on-one clients are people that really, they want to fast track their results, Indiana. And they're like, I want to go from zero to whole in as short amount of time as possible. Like, let's laser it in, let's do it, let's get after it. And it's so amazing to see the transformation that can happen, even in just a few sessions working with people. Like,
mm,
it's just when we really get to the heart of the matter about why we do what we do, and then step into our highest and greatest good, man, it's so powerful. So for your audience, I have a couple of barrier breakthrough sessions that I opened up. It's normally a $500 value, but I wanted to be able to offer excuse me, a couple to your audience over the course of the next week. And it's a 40-minute session where we talk about where you're at right now. Where do you want to go? What is your ultimate life? If you had a magic wand, what do you want your health to be like, your life to be like, your health, your wholeness to be like? And then what's in the gap? So identify that and then create an action plan so that we can fast track and clear the path to your success. And if that speaks to you, you can go to talkwithjenbeck.com and you can schedule your barrier breakthrough session there.
Okay. Is it all, what is it? Self-pay, or do you accept some type of insurance or anything like that?
No, it's all self-pay. Yeah, I don't do any insurance at all. Unfortunately, maybe we'll see some changes in our insurance at some point eventually, but right now they pretty much pay for medications and surgeries, and that's about it, unfortunately.
That's about it. And of course, therapy. Sometimes a lot of the
That's true. That's true.
a lot of the health and wellness is kind of a lot of companies are breaking out and they're including that into your benefits now. I love that for the company that I work for, so that's why I've been looking into a lot of their different programs and things as well to get to it too. So they're coming around.
That's true. That's true. There are HSA. You bring up a good point. You can use an HSA to pay for services. So that is true. It's not direct insurance, but if you have an HSA, you can be able to use that too.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again, Jen, for joining with me. This has been a fun conversation, even though it's one of those that we don't like to talk about a lot, but it's been very informative. And I hope those that are watching or that will hear this will really get some value out of it, because I've gotten some value out of it. And I've enjoyed talking to the different experts that have come along this month. And they've given me some tips that I can incorporate going forward as well. So I am very appreciative. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
You have been listening to Journey to Wholeness, brought to you by Indie Writes, a spiritual growth and development company that helps you write your way to success and wholeness in every area of your life. We specialize in books and journals that promote mental wellness and Christian growth. Our journals provide inspirational articles, motivational quotes, biblical guidance, writing prompts to release your feelings, fears, and thoughts, as well as strategies for success to tackle your goals and pursue your purpose. Visit our website and join our mailing list at www.indiewrites.com to learn more.